Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the news briefing this Wednesday, November 19th. We have been talking a lot about the importance of residents who are eligible for Medicare to reapply or apply if they are eligible before changes take effect next year in this program. There had been a drop in applications, but that seems to be changing. We're very pleased to have Annette Gallegos from our Department of Social Services to give an update on Medi-Cal applications. Hi, Annette. And you're muted. You're still muted. Hold on, we're gonna see if we can get her unmuted.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Keeping with us.
So, yes, we are definitely seeing an increase in applications really for all of our programs, but we're pleased to report that for Medi-Cal, we're seeing an increase. I will have to say thank you to all of our outreach community members, based organizations that are actually providing that assistance. So what I would just like to reiterate today is that there are 5 different ways to apply if someone does or needs to apply. And the different ways are utilizing our benefitscal.com um, online application or calling our office at 1-877-410-8823. We also accept them via fax, and we do get some, um, and that is at 784-5691. Um, they can come into our office. We are open Monday through Friday. Each office does have one day that it's closed. So on Tuesdays, office is closed. On Wednesdays, Salinas, and Thursday, King City. But we still, even when we have a closure from one office or other offices, or you can call or do it online or drop off. We do have at time individuals that are at our office assisting. But I also want to say if we go into our MC Choice website that there's information about the different changes. And but we anticipate by this Friday we will have a calendar up and running with all the different agencies that are helping, just kind of providing who's assisting in the community because we do have outreach workers that are providing assistance with enrolling. And I can give an example. Our office has some outreach workers, and we go out to Salinas Wick on certain days, and we go out to Soledad Wick, and we're starting to go out to in the Watsonville Pajaro area, but others are also available in different areas. So it's will be available soon. I'm hoping either by Friday or Monday that it'll be up and running so that everyone can see where they can go if they can't come to one of our office or have or need assistance really um, applying. So I would like to say that in Spanish. So um, quisiera, bueno, me da gusto en decirles que estamos recibiendo más aplicaciones para Medi-Cal y también para los otros programas. Pero hay 5 maneras en cómo pueden aplicar o comunicarse con nuestra oficina del Departamento de Servicios Sociales y eso es en línea en www.benefitscal.com o pueden hablar a nuestra oficina y ese es 1-877-410-8823. Lo pueden mandar por fax en el 784-5691. Pueden ir a nuestras oficinas que están en Salinas y King City. Sí hay un día por semana que cada oficina está cerrada. En Salinas eso es miércoles, Sisa es martes y King City jueves. Pero siempre pueden hablar a 877-410-8823. También tenemos trabajadores este, que están disponibles en la comunidad y esa información lo vamos a poner en el MC Choice website, un calendario y esperemos que lo vayamos a tener ya para o este viernes o lunes para que puedan ver en dónde están otros trabajadores disponible en la comunidad. En este momento les puedo decir que en nuestra oficina estamos mandando a algunos trabajadores a Salinas Wick y Soledad Wick en ciertos días y estamos mirando cuándo vamos a empezar en Pájaro y en Watsonville, en esta área. So, esa información lo vamos a tener disponible eh, este, en unos días para que todos puedan ver, este, si no pueden venir a la oficina y necesitan ayuda, ¿quién les puede ayudar? So, muchas gracias. Thank you all, and we do hope that every really resident in our county that needs our benefits is able to apply. We do have a deadline of December 31st to ensure that people are enrolled before changes occur. And those, changes do affect specific individuals, and that it would be individuals that have unsatisfactory immigration status, and then individuals that are age, blind, and disabled that will now need to provide their property verification. So we are really urging those that need the services and those specifically to come before December 31st. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for walking us through this in both English and Spanish. Let me ask you, about a month ago, when we were beginning, or a month, 6 weeks ago, when we were beginning to talk about the applications, there was a drop off. You had said there had been a drop off in applications. People were unsure. They were nervous about applying. And I think it was about 20%. Do you think with this surge in applications, we're kind of back up to closer to where we should be?
We're a little closer to where we should be. We are year to year comparison, we are still lower, not quite to the 20. I think the highest was a 24% difference, but we stayed between 15 and 20 from July to now. And recently, and we did have, rain in these last few weeks, and recently we've had a lot more individuals coming in to apply for all programs, and the gap has lessened if we do the comparison from year to year. But it has been an increase from the prior month.
That's great news. And again, remind people about the deadline and reassure people about this application process, if you would, because there are some people who are concerned about their immigration status about applying, and also for people who have other changes, disabled with this property change, they may be confused about applying and what that means to them.
Yes. And if anybody has questions, they can call or they can come and just ask. And if they need resources because they might have questions that we might not be able to answer regarding things like how would that affect me if I did this, we have resources that can be provided.
Thank you very much, Annette. And we hope to hear even better news next month. We're going to have you back and do a final check on applications next month. And so crossing our fingers for good news.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, some new rules for ADUs. And if you don't know what ADU means, it means accessory dwelling units, and junior ADUs are going to go into effect in the coastal area of our county next month. And what are these changes? We are going to find out more about them and what that means to people who would like to take advantage of this option. We're very pleased to have Sarah Wikle, the principal planner with our Housing and Community Development Department, and Edgar Sanchez, an associate planner also with Housing and Community Development. Thank you both for being here to talk about ADUs, which were a long time. This has been a long process to get these online. So please start us off and tell us about them. And we just want to let people know that this presentation will be starting in English, but then we will have a Spanish presentation. So will we start with you, Sarah?
Sure. Edgar, do you want me to share my screen or do you want to share your screen?
I can share my screen. That's fine. Let me just
And apologies, I'm coming to you from Big Sur and I'm sitting outside, so I will try to be as clear as I can be.
And we'll try not to be jealous.
Are you guys able to see the presentation slides?
There it is. Yes, we see it.
Awesome.
Unmuted. There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Sarah Wikle. I'm a principal planner with the advanced planning team. And today we will be going over at a high level our new coastal ADU regulations that were approved by the Board of Supervisors yesterday.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Edgar Sánchez, soy un planificador aquí con el condado de Monterrey. Hoy estaré presentando las actualizaciones que le hicimos a las regulaciones para las viviendas accesorias en la zona costera. Estas unidades muy frecuentemente son conocidas como ADUs o HDUs.
And so just to go over a timeline of where we've been and where we are. So in November of last year, the Planning Commission recommended adoption of Local Coastal Program or LCP amendments to the Board of Supervisors related to coastal ADUs. February 4th of 2025, the Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution of intent to amend the LCP for the county. Once that process was completed, the county then submitted those revisions to the California Coastal Commission, and on October 10th, those were approved as submitted. So that LCP amendment was approved, no changes were required. And then yesterday, as I noted previously, they went for final adoption to the Board of Supervisors. And since the Board of Supervisors approved those regulations, they will become effective in the county's unincorporated coastal zone areas on December 19th of 2025.
Para comenzar, nomás presentaré brevemente la línea del tiempo que nos ha llevado a esta actualización. El 13 de noviembre del 2024, la Comisión de Planificación recomendó adopción de las modificaciones al programa local de la costa que modificó las pólizas de ADUs. El 4 de febrero del 2024, la Junta de Supervisores adoptó la resolución de intención para modificar estas pólizas y se sometió a la Comisión Costera de California para ser certificado. El 10 de octubre del 2024, la Comisión Costera de California certificó las modificaciones así como fueron presentados. Y apenas ayer, el 8 de noviembre del 2025, realizamos la audiencia final ante la Junta de Supervisores, donde se aprobaron las modificaciones y la ordenanza tomará efecto efectivamente el 19 de diciembre del 2025, que será como en un mes. Con eso completamos el proceso de la actualización ah, de las áreas costeras para ADUs.
And then at a high level, we wanted to go, oh, sorry, Edgar, I saw I'm still seeing the timeline.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, so we wanted to go over a high-level overview of changes by planning area in the county. So we have 4 land use plans in unincorporated Monterey County in the coastal zone. And there were changes to 3 of those plans as part of these ADU regulation changes. For the Carmel Area Land Use Plan, or LUP, the changes in the coastal zone remove a 40-acre parcel minimum requirement to have an ADU. So that means that any parcel in a residential zoning district does not have a acre requirement to allow for an ADU or a JADU. In the Big Sur Coast LUP area, there's removal of a 50-unit ADU cap, as these caps are no longer permitted for state housing law. There's also limits on ADU sizes to 1,000 square feet to comply with Coastal Act protection policies, and a 90-day minimum rental criteria for ADUs in Big Sur. Lastly, and one of the biggest changes of these LCP updates is now ADUs and JADUs are listed as permitted uses in the North County land use planning area. And due to water issues in that area of the county, there are some water efficiency policies to ensure that groundwater is protected.
Ahora entraré en los cambios específicos por el área de planificación. En el área de Carmel, la modificación principal es que se eliminó el requisito de del tamaño de 40 acres mínimo para las parcelas para poder construir una ADU. Eso permite mayor flexibilidad para los propietarios que cumplan con los otros requisitos de desarrollo. La costa de Big Sur, se eliminó el límite previo de 50 ADUs eran los únicos que eran permitidos, y además se establece el tamaño a 1000 pies cuadrados, y se requiere un periodo mínimo de renta del ADU de 90 días, evitando el uso de alquiler vacacional o rentar a corto plazo. En el área costera del norte, se entregan dos cambios muy importantes, porque ADUs y JDUs no eran permitidos en esta área, pero ahora con las modificaciones serán permitidos, y se agregan pólizas de eficiencia de agua para proteger las aguas subterráneas.
And then some of the, again, updated regulations in Title 20, which is the zoning code, is that ADUs and JDUs are principally permitted in zones that allow for single-family residential uses. There were some changes and updates to development standards, which included some revisions to height allowances, size requirements in ADUs depending on local coastal LUP location, and setback criteria. There's also some information related to ADUs up to 800 square feet in size. This is a state exempt, what's called a state exempt ADU, which means that the local jurisdiction cannot unduly preclude the construction of a unit of that size due to various development standards such as lot coverage, front setback, and FAR requirements. And FAR stands for floor area ratio. And ADUs are not, and JDUs are not permitted to have vacation rentals, as there's a 31-day rental minimum criteria for these types of units.
En toda la zona costera, los ADUs y los JDUs ahora están permitidos en una manera principal en las zonas que permiten residencias unifamiliares. También incluimos actualizaciones a los estándares de desarrollo, como alturas permitidas, los requisitos del tamaño y los retrosos revisados. Además, siguiendo las leyes estatales, una ADU de hasta 800 pies cuadrados no puede ser rechazado debido a no cumplir con requisitos de cobertura, como la cobertura del lote, el retrozo frontal. Simplemente cumpla con los otros requisitos que están en la ordenanza. También es muy importante, como mencioné previamente, subrayar que ahora no se permitirán alquileres vacacionales en estas unidades, y tienen un requisito de renta al mínimo de 31 días.
Some other regulations that were updated are limitations on the number of ADUs and JADUs. JADUs are a junior accessory dwelling unit, and those are allowed in single-family zoning districts. There's one allowed per lot, and then one ADU is permitted for single-family zoned properties. For multiple family dwellings, the number of ADUs changes depending on the situation or criteria of the development on that property. JADUs are not permitted in multiple family zoning districts, nor properties with a multiple family dwelling structure. In order to streamline the permitting process for ADUs and JADUs, there is a 60-day time limit after a complete application has been submitted for approval of an ADU or JADU by HCD. Additionally, there's now a tiered permitting process. So some types of ADUs and JADUs will be exempt from any coastal related development permits. Other types of ADUs, most of the ADUs in the LCP coastal zone areas will require a coastal administrative permit. And then if there are criteria that would trigger a coastal development permit, such as development on slopes or in areas with habitat protection or other protective policies, then that would trigger a coastal development permit, which is typically approved by the Planning Commission.
Se mantienen las limitaciones estatales con respecto al número de unidades que se permiten en el lote. Son lotes unifamiliares, se permite un ADU, un JDU, y bajo estos, y por ejemplo, si tienen multifamiliares, un lote con una vivienda multifamiliar, am, la variación de el número de ADUs que son permitidos cambia debido a qué tipo de desarrollo tengas en tu lote. Con esta actualización se establece un proceso de permisos escalonado que incluye primero un plazo de máximo de 60 días para que el condado emita una decisión después de recibir una solicitud de, de una ADU completa. Y el sistema de permisos trabaja por niveles. Por ejemplo, en el primer nivel tenemos extento. Eso es para los ADUs que claramente son elegibles bajo los requerimientos en la ordenanza para ser exentos de un permiso costal, y eso se procesarán con un permiso de construcción. Ya los ADUs que requieren un permiso administrativo am, deben ser procesados con el permiso, y también se puede requerir un permiso de desarrollo costero si hay cosas que requieren revisión más profunda del ADU.
And then to help everyone get oriented to the differences between an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, or a junior accessory dwelling unit, JADU, we put this chart together to go over briefly. Accessory dwelling units can be up to 1,200 square feet. And in certain areas of the coastal zone, they are limited in size due to resource-related constraints. They can be attached, detached, or be a conversion of an existing structure. Typically, an ADU has independent facilities, including cooking, sanitation, and sleeping facilities. There's typically no internal circulation with the main residence, no owner occupancy requirements, and no deed restrictions required. For a junior accessory dwelling unit, they're a maximum of 500 square feet in size. They're typically fully contained within the walls of a single family residential unit. These units may share bathroom and central systems, but typically have an independent either efficiency kitchen or full kitchen. They can have, if they're sharing a bathroom facility, internal circulation with the main residence. For these units, there is an owner occupancy requirement, and that does require preparation of a deed restriction.
Nomás para proporcionar algunas distinciones entre los dos tipos de unidades, los ADUs o unidad de vivienda accesoria, estas unidades pueden medir hasta 1,200 pies cuadrados, pueden ser adjuntos o separados de la casa, puede ser una conversión de una estructura existente en la propiedad, y deben tener instalaciones independientes para cocinar, para baños y para dormir. Estas unidades no deben tener circulación interna con la residencia principal, y tampoco no habrá requisitos de ocupación del propietario o una escritura restringida. Los HDUs, esos son un poco diferentes porque esos miden 500 pies cuadrados y están totalmente contenidos dentro de las paredes de una sola de una casa de familia. Estas unidades pueden compartir sistemas de baño y sistemas centrales, pero deben tener una cocina de eficiencia independiente de la casa principal. Y también estas unidades pueden tener circulación interna con la residencia principal. También hay otros requisitos que se ocupa que el dueño de la propiedad esté viviendo dentro de la propiedad, y hay unos requerimientos de escritura estarán restringidas.
And so that concludes our high-level presentation. We have a coastal ADU ordinance county webpage you can get some additional information on, but all the hearing documents, and then what will be posted here are some implementation documents with FAQs and things to help the public get oriented to these new regulations as they prepare to submit a building application or a planning permit application to HCD. And then if you have some additional questions, you can reach out to Edgar Sanchez at the email or the phone number below.
So, con eso concluir la presentación. Nomás quería mencionar que la nueva ordenanza está disponible en nuestra página del condado y o también puede acceder a la ordenanza haciendo clic en el enlace que está aquí en la pantalla o escaneando el código QR que está aquí. También si tiene cualquier pregunta o comentario, por favor, me puede contactar por correo electrónico o mi número de teléfono que está en la pantalla. Muchas gracias.
Thank you both so much for walking through this, even at a high level. It's very complicated, but I want to also ask you about, this is for the coastal area of our county. Aren't there already rules for the rest of the county in place? Is that giving you a hint about the interest in having ADUs and junior ADUs?
Edgar, do you want me to answer that question, or do you want to take
I can
stab
answer
at it?
that question.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so we do have coastal regulations already in place within coastal areas. So with this update, we're really modifying our policies to be more in line with state code. There was some prohibitions on ADUs within the North County, so that's why it's a more significant change in that area since they weren't previously permitted in the North County area. It does provide, since we did have the previous regulations in place, it does provide kind of a hint of what we can expect to see in the North County area now that they're officially will be allowed in that area. I hope that answers.
And I
Because
can
when you say North County, we think of also South County, like the rest of the county. Wasn't there already options already in place for people in other areas of the county?
Yes, that is correct. So we do have some regulations that were updated in 2020 for the inland areas specifically. What Edgar is noting and with these coastal regulations is there have been some changes in state housing law since then. And so the coastal zone ordinance is memorializing some of those changes. We are looking to also memorialize some of those changes in the inland ordinance, so that'll be to come. But we wanted to make sure that we were able to get coastal commission approval and buy-in from the state HCD, who takes a look at some of these regulations to make sure that we can align both areas of the county with the most current regulations. And the inland area can still process permits. We are still permitting ADUs in South County, inland areas like Prunedale of North County. The changes that Edgar's speaking of in the coastal zone are typically like the Los Lomos, Royal Oaks area. Those are covered by the coastal zone and couldn't have ADUs previously, and now they can come December 19th.
So for people who are really interested in launching the process of doing this, it sounds like their first stop is to the webpage to look at what is required. And then the next step is the permit center for an application.
Yeah, that's correct. I'd start off looking at our webpage, our regulations, getting familiar with what is currently allowed in the county, and obviously just coming to the front counter, talking to one of our permit technicians, our planning staff will be able to point you in the right direction.
Thank you. And a lot of work went into this. Congratulations on getting this all done and through. And I know a lot of people, it was discussed yesterday at the board meeting, and there was just a lot of happiness that you've checked this box and it's ready to go.
Yes.
Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to go from ADUs and JADUs to water. If you own a well in the Salinas Valley Basin, it must be registered. And registration is an important part of our groundwater monitoring program to help protect our shared resources. And for that, we're very pleased to have someone here in our media center today, Azhderian. He's the general manager of the Water Resources Agency. Let's talk a little bit about this program. We've talked about it before, but it's time to really reiterate the importance of registering these wells. Why do wells need to be registered?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Maya, for having us here today. And I'd like to point out, too, that I'm joined by the Water Resource Agency's senior hydrologist, Amy Woodrow, who's been our lead on the groundwater monitoring program. And yeah, the reason for well registration now, maybe what is most interesting to most people is that it's currently free. And it will be until the end of January of 2026. And that is because of a grant that we're able to rely upon to cover the costs of initial well registration through that time frame. The reason for well registration, backing up beyond the just it's free and that's good, is something people like is in 2014, the state enacted a law called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. And the intentions of that law are to protect the access to groundwater, to sustain it over time. And, and really the wells that are most vulnerable to changes in groundwater are residential wells. And they historically in the Salinas Valley haven't been a part of the groundwater monitoring program. Agricultural wells have been, municipal wells have been, but this is new for residential well owners. And so that's why we're, appreciative of this opportunity to remind people of the requirement to register. The requirement comes from a state mandate. There is this opportunity to register now for free. And, the reasons for registering is really to protect those wells that residents own, for future use.
So we talked a little bit about who has been part of the program before and who is part of the program now. Who needs to register at this point?
Yeah, well, all wells need to register, but most, if not all, ag and municipal wells have been registered in the past under the prior program. Residential wells didn't need to register, but recent changes in the standards have, made that a requirement now. And so that's why we're really focused on the smaller well owners who haven't been a part of the program in the past. In order for the management of the groundwater basin to be cost effective and for it to be successful for all well owners, we need to know where those wells are, even the small ones. And we need to know the characteristics of those wells, because if the only thing we're seeing are the large ag or municipal wells, they tend to be deeper. And if we're managing to the wrong depths or to the wrong water quality, we're maintaining that risk to those residents that we want to avoid. And so that's why we're really focused on residential well owners.
But why not really just focus on the big users? Because if we're talking about shared resources, if we're talking about we all need water, we all need it. Why not really just stick with the people who use really 90%, maybe 80 to 90% of the water? Maybe my percentage is off, but that use the vast majority of it.
Yeah, of course. And I think this is the difference between monitoring the groundwater basin and managing the groundwater basin. And so in order for us to monitor the groundwater basin, to understand how it's changing in elevation, if it might be changing in quality, that requires us to be able to see all the different wells. And how much water they use really doesn't change the need to see that, right? The decisions that get made about how we're going to manage the groundwater basin will be dependent on those management actions. And they very well could focus more predominantly on the larger water users. But those management actions are yet to come. Right now, it's the monitoring effort that we're focused on and growing our understanding about, the state of the groundwater basin. And that's important so that we can inform those future management decisions. We don't want to overmanage, right, and expend money and resources that we didn't need to, but we also don't want to undermanage, because in that case, the state could come in, we could lose local control over our planning and management efforts. And so, so this is about right-sizing the future for sustainability.
And you mentioned overmanage and undermanage. Everybody looks at this in a different way. And you've heard a lot from growers, from people with wells about this whole program. What are you hearing from them, and what are the responses that you're able to share with them about the value of the program?
Yeah, I think, for the agricultural community and for the municipal communities that have been participating in well registration and water usage reporting for some time now, this is sort of a continuation for them. And so there's a lot of comfort there in the direction that the program's going. For the folks that are new to this, I think the questions are very similar to what you're asking here today. Why do I need to register? Why now? And those are very natural questions, right? And so we try to engage with them and inform them about the importance and the benefit to the individual well owner, because for the most part, residential wells, as I mentioned earlier, they tend to be shallower, but also, those homeowners tend to be less capable of adjusting to changes in groundwater than, say, a municipality or a large agricultural enterprise. And so we want to make sure that homeowners' wells are protected and that they aren't suffering from surprises or incurring costs that are affordable because we didn't manage the groundwater adequately.
And most of those residential well owners are used to dealing with the health department and other agencies that are worried about the quality of the water and, making sure that what they have is safe to drink.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And the health department, continues to play a role in all of this. They continue to be the well permitting entity. And if you need to do repairs on your well, it's the health department that you'd go to for the permits for that. They continue to pull water samples on small water systems for, the water quality that they're looking at is the potability of the water, right? Is it okay to drink? When we're looking at water quality, we're looking at it in the context of seawater intrusion, right? And trying to manage that, much larger issue. And so, I appreciate that it gets confusing because there are a lot of entities that are involved in all of this, and we work very hard to work closely together and to be efficient in our work. But yeah, the health department's role does continue here.
So for people who have not yet registered, what should they do? What's their next step?
Yeah, well, and thank you, Amy. And go online and register there. There's a web address here. There's also a number and an email address. And so there are a number of different ways to access the agency in terms of the well registration piece of it. And then there's just, some standard questions that you'll be asked about, the location of the well, the characteristics of the well. And again, we want to know those things because, knowing how deep the well is important, knowing how much water it moves is important. And all of that information helps inform future management. So,
and there's also a phone number and an email there. So for people who still have concerns, people who just aren't ready or still really are not sure what to do, there are people at the other end of the email, other end of the phone line who can answer some of those hard questions.
That is correct. And so oftentimes when people do have questions, they will call the number and we will get back to you. If someone isn't immediately available, we will get back to you.
Thank you for walking us through this again. And we really hope that people take advantage of that free registration because free is always good.
Free is fun.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it. And being here in person. That's great.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us on the news briefing this week.